The expensive RMD mistake 99% of retirees make. Here is something most people never see coming. You spend decades building a retirement account, doing everything right, saving consistently, investing patiently, staying the course through every market swing. Then you hit your early 70s and the IRS sends you a letter telling you exactly how much money you must pull out of that account every single year, whether you need it or not, whether the market is up or down, and whether it blows up your tax situation or not. That forced withdrawal is called a required minimum distribution, and the mistake most retirees make is not misunderstanding the mechanics. It is treating the IRS minimum like it is a financial plan. It is a tax collection schedule. Those are two very different things. Research suggests that roughly 85% of retires at RMD age take only the bare minimum the IRS requires. And among people who have not yet reached RMD age, close to 80% have not taken a single voluntary dollar from their tax-deferred accounts. That combination, underspending early and ignoring the accounts until forced distributions begin, quietly sets up a much larger tax problem in the later years of retirement. By the time we finish here, you will understand what RMDs actually are, how they are calculated, where the real traps hide, and what you can do about them before they become a problem. All figures and rules referenced here reflect 2026 law and IRS guidance. When you contributed to a traditional IRA, a 401k, a 403b, a 457b, or a similar tax-deferred account, you received a tax break on the way in. The money grew without being taxed along the way. But the IRS always intended to collect. The required minimum distribution is the mechanism they use to make sure that happens. Starting at a certain age, you must withdraw a minimum amount from those accounts each year. That withdrawal is taxed as ordinary income. If you do not take enough out, you face a penalty. The account cannot sit there indefinitely sheltering money from taxation. RMD rules apply to traditional IRAs, rollover IRAs, SEP IRAs, Simple IRAs, 401k plans, 403b plans, 457b plans, and the Federal Thrift Savings Plan. They also apply to inherited versions of these accounts, though inherited accounts follow their own separate rules and timelines. RMD rules do not apply to your own Roth IRA, and as of 2024, they no longer apply to Roth 401k and Roth 403b accounts for the original owner either. Inherited Roth accounts are a different matter and can still carry distribution requirements, typically a 10-year window to empty the account. Under current law, which includes the changes introduced by the Secure 2.0 Act, your RMDs generally begin the year you turn 73. If you were born in 1960 or later, that starting age is scheduled to move to 75. In your first RMD year, you have a choice. You can take that first distribution by December 31st of that year, or you can delay it until April 1st of the following year. That April 1st option sounds helpful, but it contains a trap that catches a surprising number of people. If you push your first RMD to April 1st of the following year, the IRS still expects your second RMD by December 31st of that same year. That means 2 full RMDs land in 1 calendar year. 2 distributions stacked together in a single tax year can push you into a higher federal bracket, make a larger portion of your Social Security benefits taxable, and potentially trigger Medicare's income-based premium surcharges, known as RMD, which are based on your income from 2 years prior. Most people learn about this double distribution effect after the fact, when they see their tax bill or receive a Medicare premium notice. The timing of that first RMD is worth thinking through carefully, not just accepting whatever default your brokerage suggests. Before continuing, subscribe. It's free and could save you thousands of dollars in retirement. Okay, let's continue. Each year, for each account, your custodian looks at the account balance as of December 31st of the prior year. They divide that balance by a life expectancy factor from IRS tables based on your age in the current year. The result is your required minimum distribution for that account. In your early 70s, the factor translates to a withdrawal rate of roughly 3.7% to 4% of the prior year balance. That percentage increases each year as the life expectancy factor shrinks. By your mid-80s, you are looking at withdrawal rates closer to 6% or 7%. By your early 90s, the required percentage climbs higher still. This matters because it means your RMDs do not stay flat. They grow in percentage terms as you age. And if your account balances have continued growing through your 60s, and early 70s without any voluntary withdrawals. The combination of a larger balance and a rising withdrawal rate can produce very large forced distributions right when you are least likely to need or want that much income. To put a number on it, a $1.2 million traditional IRA at age 73 generates an RMD of roughly $46,000 using the 2026 IRS Uniform Lifetime Table. That same account, if it grows to $1.6 million by age 80 with no voluntary drawdown along the way, produces an RMD of approximately $80,000, all of it taxed as ordinary income, regardless of what you actually plan to spend that year. If you fail to take your full RMD by the required deadline, the IRS imposes a penalty. Under current 2026 rules, that penalty is 25% of the amount you failed to withdraw. If you catch the mistake quickly and take the missed distribution within a correction window, the penalty may be reduced to 10%. In some cases, with proper documentation and a reasonable explanation filed on the correct form, the IRS may waive it entirely. Missing an RMD is serious. It is not catastrophic if you act quickly, but ignoring it or hoping it resolves itself is never the right approach. Not all retirement accounts can be combined when satisfying RMDs. The rules differ by account type, and this is where many retirees make quiet errors. Traditional IRAs. If you have multiple traditional IRAs, you calculate the RMD for each account separately, but you can add the total required amounts together and take that combined total from any one IRA or any combination of your IRAs. You have flexibility here. 401k plans. These work differently. If you have two old 401ks from two former employers, you must generally calculate and satisfy the RMD for each plan independently. You cannot pool them and pull the total from just one. Each plan requires its own distribution. 403b plans. Some 403b plans allow aggregation similar to IRAs, but this depends on specific plan provisions. It is worth asking your plan administrator directly. Spousal accounts. Each spouse has their own RMD requirement based on their own age and their own account balances. A large withdrawal from one spouse's IRA does not satisfy any portion of the other spouse's RMD. This is a mistake married couples make more often than you would expect. The still working exception. If you are still employed at RMD age and own less than 5% of the company you work for, you may be able to delay RMDs from your current employer's plan if the plan allows it. This exception does not apply to traditional IRAs. It does not automatically extend to old 401ks from previous employers unless you roll those into your current plan first, handling any already due RMDs before the rollover. Many people hear that working retirees can skip RMDs and assume it applies to everything they own. It does not. Everything covered so far involves rules and mechanics. This next part is about something more fundamental: how retirees actually behave, and why that behavior quietly costs them. The RMD table was built by the IRS to enforce a tax collection timeline. It was not designed as a retirement spending guide, but because it arrives in the form of an official letter with a specific dollar amount. Most retirees treat it exactly like a spending guide. They take the minimum, put it in the bank, and consider the obligation met. The problem is that real retirement spending does not follow the IRS schedule. Most people experience something closer to 3 phases. An active phase in their early to mid-60s and early 70s when they are traveling, spending on experiences, helping adult children, and generally living at a higher level of activity. A slower phase through the mid to late 70s when spending naturally pulls back somewhat. And a later phase in the 80s and beyond when healthcare costs may rise, but discretionary spending on travel and entertainment tends to drop significantly. Meanwhile, RMDs are smallest precisely when people are most active and most likely to actually use the money, and largest in the later years when spending needs have often declined. The retiree who takes only the minimum through their 60s and early 70s may find themselves sitting on a growing tax-deferred balance that generates ever larger forced distributions in their 80s, on income they do not need, paying taxes they did not have to pay, while the years when they could have spent freely are behind them. Treating the IRS minimum as your retirement plan is how people end up with the worst of both worlds, under-enjoying the healthy years and overpaying taxes in the later ones. Every dollar of your RMD lands on your tax return as ordinary income, but the impact does not stop there. Social Security taxation. The IRS uses a formula, combined income or provisional income, to determine how much of your Social Security benefit is subject to tax. That formula includes your adjusted gross income, any tax-exempt interest, and half of your Social Security benefit. For married couples filing jointly in 2026, once that combined figure exceeds $32,000, up to 50% of your Social Security can become taxable. Above $44,000, up to 85% can be taxed. These thresholds have not been adjusted for inflation since they were written in the 1980s. A single large RMD can push you across these lines and make a meaningful portion of your Social Security benefit taxable, even if you did not plan for that to happen. Medicare RMD surcharges. Medicare uses your income from 2 years prior to determine your Part B and Part D premiums. In 2026, single filers with modified adjusted gross income above $106,000 and married couples above $212,000 begin paying surcharges that can add several $100s per month per person. A year with 2 stacked RMDs, or a large Roth conversion done without careful planning, can produce an IRMA surprise 2 years down the road that nobody saw coming. These ripple effects are why the specific timing, sequencing, and size of RMDs matter far beyond the simple question of whether you took out enough to satisfy the IRS. You have more options than most people realize. None of these are required. They are tools. Whether any of them fit your situation depends on your income, your account balances, your health, and your goals. Qualified charitable distributions. If you are 70112 or older and charitably inclined, a QCD allows you to send money directly from your IRA to a qualified nonprofit organization. That amount counts toward your RMD but does not show up as taxable income on your return the same way a regular withdrawal does. In 2026, the annual QCD limit is $108,000 per person. This can lower your reported income, reduce how much of your Social Security is taxed, and help avoid IRMA thresholds. If you are already writing checks to charities, directing IRA money there directly is almost always more tax efficient than withdrawing, paying tax, and then donating the remainder. Roth conversions in the planning window, the years between retirement and age 73, before RMDs begin and before full Social Security income arrives, often represent the lowest income period a retiree will experience. Using that window to convert portions of a traditional IRA to a Roth account, paying tax now at lower rates, can meaningfully reduce future RMDs and the tax drag that comes with them. The goal is not to convert everything. It is to fill lower tax brackets intentionally rather than waiting for RMDs to force larger distributions at potentially higher rates. The risk is converting too much in a single year and triggering higher brackets or IRMA surcharges, which is why this requires careful modeling, not guesswork. Delaying Social Security to extend the conversion window. Some retirees retire from full-time work but delay Social Security to age 70 specifically to keep taxable income lower during the years they are doing Roth conversions. Every year of delay beyond full retirement age increases the Social Security benefit by 8%, guaranteed. Using that delay period for strategic conversions can simultaneously grow the guaranteed benefit and reduce the future tax-deferred balance that would otherwise generate large RMDs. Spending from the right bucket at the right time. Many planners describe retirement accounts in terms of 3 buckets. A taxable bucket containing bank accounts, brokerage accounts, and CDs. A tax-deferred bucket containing traditional IRAs and 401ks. A tax-free bucket containing Roth accounts. Drawing from the taxable bucket first in early retirement while doing modest Roth conversions within lower brackets can keep the tax-deferred balance from growing unchecked and reduce the size of future RMDs. The Roth becomes the last resource, available for large one-time expenses or to cover gaps without pushing income across a threshold. Spreading distributions across the year. This is simple but overlooked. Taking one large RMD check in December concentrates income into a single moment. Taking distributions monthly or quarterly spreads the income more evenly and makes it easier to stay aware of where you are relative to bracket boundaries, Social Security thresholds, and IRMA limits. It also removes the risk of forgetting until late in the year and scrambling to get the distribution processed before the deadline. You do not need to memorize every rule or become a tax expert. What you need is a clear picture of what you have and what is coming. Set aside an hour sometime this month. Write down every tax-deferred retirement account you own. traditional IRAs, rollover IRAs, old 401ks, 403bs, 457bs, any government or military plans. Note the approximate balance in each, whether the account is with a current employer or a former one, and your age. If you have a spouse, do the same for their accounts separately. Then ask 2 questions. First, if I do nothing between now and age 73, how large will my RMDs likely be, and what will that do to my tax situation? Second, is there anything I can do in the years between now and then to reduce that burden? Those 2 questions, answered honestly with real numbers, are the beginning of an actual plan rather than a reaction to an IRS letter. If you are already taking RMDs, the conversation shifts to timing, aggregation, and whether tools like QCDs or modest additional withdrawals above the minimum might reduce your longer-term tax exposure. Either way, a fee-only fiduciary financial planner or a CPA who specializes in retirement income planning can run the projections specific to your situation. This is not a decision to make based on a general rule of thumb or what your neighbor did. The RMD is not the enemy. It is a feature of the tax code that was always part of the deal when you put money into these accounts. The mistake is not knowing it is coming, or knowing it is coming, and ignoring it until there is no flexibility left. The retirees who come out ahead are not necessarily the ones with the biggest accounts. They are the ones who understood the rules early enough to use them, rather than be used by them. All information in this video reflects 2026 tax law and IRS guidance. Tax rules change, thresholds adjust, and your individual situation matters enormously. This is education, not personal tax or legal advice. If you want to learn more about how to manage your money, keep it, increase it, and live the rest of your life better, I recommend that you watch more videos on this channel. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any new videos. I hope it helps you.